How's it going? My name is Chris Ryan. I'm an editor at TheRinger.com. I'm also the co-host of the Watch Podcast. And it is my pleasure to welcome the creative team and the cast of Dear White People, starting with Yvette Lee Bowser. Episodes. Guys, I want to start, Justin, obviously with you. We were talking briefly backstage, this is a new show, but this is an idea and a story and a themes that you've been working on for more than a decade.
Yes, it has.
So can you talk a little bit about how you got here to this way of telling the story? Because in a way, I feel like this format is like what the story's been crying out for the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have a love for multi-protagonist movies. Like they've sort of like come in and out of vogue, but like for me, when I was in college trying to figure out what's gonna be, like what do I want to write? Like what do I want my first feature to be? I was watching School Days and Do the Right Thing and like these multi-protagonist black stories. I was into Altman, Kubrick does that a lot. I was just watching these movies that like dissect these really complicated ideas from a bunch of different points of views. But I always felt, even as I was writing the movie, that if I really want to go into these characters' experiences, like one day it'd be great for them to live and breathe in a TV show. You see it with MASH. Like multi-protagonist movies make great shows. I didn't realize it would happen so fast, which is dope. But yeah, I mean, it's always sort of been like the seed of it eventually landing on TV has always been there. It's just that in 2005, the idea of this as a TV show was preposterous.
Right.
When I first started writing it. So, it really is sort of like a mix of the right time and people being into the film and, our friends at Netflix and Lionsgate wanting to do something with the property. It just kind of came together,
So, especially for Chapter 2, I loved how it starts out and there are conversations about journalistic ethics, sexual identity, loyalty among friends, and how do you define yourself? Obviously, the major theme being Windex. Do you find that you start tell me a little bit about the creative process. Are there ideas that you want to get across? Because to some extent, this is like a combination between a short story and an essay, each of these episodes.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the writing process and how it's different now writing in these blocks?
Well, one thing I definitely wanted to do once we landed at Netflix is like I don't watch Netflix shows the way I watch other shows, and I really wanted to make something specific to that particular format of binge watching. And because I'm always trying to get at one idea from a bunch of different points of views, I thought, well, why don't we have this sort of global story, but we kind of like move protagonists every episode, and we sometimes see the same scenes but from a different point of view. So that was definitely there going in. But at the heart of it, as we talked a lot about, Yvette and I in the writer's room, is like this is a story about identity versus self. How do you figure out who you are when the world's decided who you are? Like when you have to be somebody for everybody else. And so each character's journey is that. I mean, we really try to find some version of that in every episode. Like while the global plot is happening, Lionel is stricken with this, who am I question, just like Sam is, and just like all of the characters are, continuously. So that was always at the root of it. It's like, how do we tell this story of like, when you rub up against who you are and what you're supposed to be from these very different points of views? That was always the question. And how do we tell a story that we haven't really seen before?
Well, and Yvette, I wanted to throw it down to you because you worked on one of my favorite shows ever, A Different World, and now you're back on campus. It's interesting. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit. You've got so much, a storied career, an amazing resume. But can you talk a little bit about working in this new iteration of a format that you have so much experience in, and returning to this setting? And why do you think it's such a viable setting for drama and comedy?
For me, this is totally a full circle moment creatively, because I did start out my career straight out of college on a show called A Different World, which is about young people in college. But it is also the college years are the most formative years in our lives. So they're the years where identity is really more or less setting itself. And I think that for me, creatively, it's just been a blessing to work with Justin, who had such a very clear vision. And so my job has just been to kind of enhance that and make sure that his vision came across, and to just add layers to what was already there. And then, of course, we cast all of these amazingly talented people who brought even more depth and humor and humanity to the piece. So it's just, it's been a joyous ride. And creatively, we've, I think mostly seen eye to eye. And where we haven't, I think it's made the show even better, because we really just hashed it all out, and really added, again, more layers to the series, and we hope to do even more, and more layers to the series than we're even in the film, because television really lends itself to, extended storytelling.
I have to say, watching so much television, and there's notoriously, like Parks and Rec, for instance, took like a full year to kind of find its voice and find the rhythm of the show, and it's amazing to watch you guys. It's like already there. It's like we're catching you. Obviously, the story's beginning, but we're catching you in mid-flight already. It's really impressive. Logan, I wanted to ask you. You have the first chapter, obviously. I thought it must be really challenging because you're actually playing 3 parts in some ways, because you're Sam inside of the radio booth, you're Sam with her friends, you're Sam with Gabe. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like? How do you calibrate your performance when you know that this is a person who's going through all these different identities almost within a day?
Well, I love that you figured that out, because it took me a while to figure that out. And I would constantly, truthfully, just lend myself to Justin, and I would sometimes be confused on how I was supposed to, you want to get this idea of a character and stick to it and make it cohesive. And he would remind me, you're a different person when you're with Gabe, and when you're with Joelle, and when you're with the Black Caucus, and when you're on the radio show. So, that made it a lot easier, because I think we all do that in our lives. Like, I'm a certain person on this stage right now, and I was a certain person backstage with my buds when we were excited after seeing the film, or the show. This show. So,
It's a 5-hour
It's a long movie, basically.
17.
It's a 5-hour.
So, and going along with that, and John Patrick and Marque, you can jump in here, because one of the things I thought this show, it really captured was that thing when you're in college, and no shots at anybody who married their college sweetheart, but like you are kind of like finding yourself through your relationships, right? You're like projecting who you want to be to somebody else. How did you guys, for John Patrick and Logan, how did you guys come up with the chemistry and the tone of what you guys would be inside the dorm room versus who you would be while watching Defamation, which is coming to ABC on Wednesdays this week?
It's our second favorite new show.
Logan's cute as a button.
Yeah, that helps.
I don't know. It was just kind of a natural thing. It was. I met Logan and Justin on the same morning. I met Logan I don't know, less than 15 minutes before I walked into the room and read this stuff, and we just started talking, and I said some really nonsensical knucklehead things, and she giggled, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna be fine.
That comes across, though. It comes across that's like an element of the relationship in the show. That's really cool.
No, it was imperative for. It was really, really imperative, especially in the first scene that you see us together, that you believe that we're, a couple. I haven't really had to play anything to where I've had to make that come across so genuinely, And it was really important that for all of us to make sure that there's some sort of spark, there's something that just draws them together, I don't know.
Well, you guys did a great. You nailed Gosling eyes. That's the most important thing. How do you feel? Brandon and Marque, I wanted to ask you about the continuing resonance this material must have for you, because it's almost like at this point it's like a theater company for you, right? You're these are roles that you have inhabited for a while, these are roles that you've played around, but obviously within this format you guys get to dive deeper into these characters than you ever have before. Even in that one moment when you first go up to Logan and you have this little hand gesture that you do that was economically in a movie you might not even notice, it might need to get to point A, point B, but you get to play around. Can you talk a little bit about coming back to these characters and diving deeper?
Yeah, I'm just glad they brought me back so I can get another check. is so cool is that we get to dive deeper and explore who these people are. And for me personally, exploring Reggie was therapeutic for me because this was the first character that allowed me to explore what it means to be a young black man in America today. So thank y'all for that.
Thank you, sir. Y'all only ready for the next episode. That's what I'm gonna say.
No, it's like coming home. It's like revisiting an old friend, where things constantly evolve, things constantly change, and you want to get to know that person deeper. And Justin just is such a rich storyteller that it just made it very inviting for me to want to come back. And so thank you. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun. And Troy's just an interesting, like Marque and everyone has said, these are really complex characters, like we all are. It's like a puzzle, and you try to figure it out as you go along and change and interact with different people and also different actors as well. And yeah,
Ashley, I wanted to ask you, first of all, I wanted to say congratulations because half of your facial expressions are about to become memes. I know personally. Next time somebody gets like a shot blocked, I'm gonna attach that to you have the way you're introduced, and I was kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the way that you and Sam played out the friendship, because obviously you have this immediate lived-in feeling, which is like you can only get when you're in college and you're just spending almost all of your waking life with someone. You talk a little bit about like how important it was for you guys to represent female friendships in a particular way.
Wow, I love that question. Whenever people ask me what I love most about Joelle, I always say that she's a great friend. And I feel so lucky and blessed to portray a good friend on TV. It sounds weird, but it's like, think about that, how often we really see that in the camaraderie that we have. But I think Logan and I, we instantly had chemistry, and we talked a lot about, like, for instance, a little tidbit is that first scene where you see us in the radio station was the first scene we shot of the series. It was the very first day of shooting. And it was really important for Logan and I to really feel like best friends and to really show the love and admiration and respect. And that, like you said, we're doing this together. We're figuring it out. So that scene where I hug her after I'm a little kind of ticked off about her keeping something from me, I hug her in that way because I'm always just going to be there for her. And this isn't going to be the first time that we're going to go through something where she might be nervous to tell me, or I might be nervous to tell her something too. Trust me, there's more guys.
Joelle's got secrets.
Yeah, but yeah. So anyway, I feel it's very important to portray strong female characters, and particularly female characters that have a strong bond and a friendship.
Yeah. Speaking of friendship, Antoinette, I wanted to ask a little bit about. Sorry, I was grabbing my questions. Antoinette, I wanted to ask a little bit because in the first two episodes, you're not the villain, but you are an antagonist, right? But here's the specific thing is, like, in terms of the construction of the series and the way you guys shot it, you are playing one, not character role, but role for the story of the show, like where you were, egging people on and asking questions and probing. And then how do you have to think ahead about where your character is going to be going in further chapters? So I was curious about sort of the shooting process and how you develop the character over that.
Antagonist. Coco. She loves to throw shade. What can I say? In terms of thinking about where the character is going to go, I'm more so thinking about in the moment, and if these moments are real and organic. And Sam and Coco have their sordid past, and as a result of that past, I treat her accordingly. So, needless to say, you'll definitely see different colors of that relationship. It's definitely not going to be just one note.
And did you? I'm just curious because you absolutely killed the sort of mini speeches you have to do when you're just rattling it off. Did you guys shoot in a very did you do a lot of takes? Did you guys, or was there any improvisation going on set, or was it mostly just you were just going through the beats of the script?
I mean, I tend to be kind of a no improv kind of dude. Like, the language is so specific for this show. It's a style. I mean, it's a style of storytelling. We talk a lot about Patty Chayefsky, and we talk a lot about network, and movies that are like written to a T, and like every syllable means something. And so, really, with the exception of John Patrick, who can't help himself, it took great effect, by the way. We try to have genuine human moments within the confines of the script. And the truth is like, I'm there, the writers are there, Yvette's there. We're constantly sort of massaging the work to make sure that it feels real. But yeah, this is a heightened reality, you know what I mean, for a reason. These characters begin as archetypes before we really get to know them. And so for me, the language is really important. But I will say, listen, these are like really talented people. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, because sometimes you have the time and the space to rehearse and to find things. We didn't really have that every episode. So like, when it comes down to it, these guys just sort of delivered. That's really the truth. And we talked a lot about the characters, where they were going to go in the season, but I also didn't want them to know too much about where the characters were going to go, because just like Antoinette said, it was more important to me that they be honest in those moments as opposed to sort of like telegraphing something, and so I try to keep as much of it as a secret as I can.
Well, that kind of leads me to my question for DeRon, because like obviously in the second chapter, you have to do two really hard things. Like you have to sell this incredibly emotional journey that a character is going through as he's kind of going through this self-discovery, but you have to be funny. And you're like in a room with the Riverdale twins, and like, everybody's, taking hits and stuff. But like, can you talk a little bit about finding the resonance, like the middle ground between that like comedy and then also like very emotionally vulnerable moment? That must be difficult for an actor.
Wow. These questions are incredible. No, I think the emotional journey, yeah. I think Justin and the people who are involved in casting the show did a great job in casting. But it is like, I guess so, in finding an emotional journey, because I guess I went through a lot of stuff like that as well, being interested in certain people, like falling in love with my roommate, so I think he just has a constant lust for things without speaking them, but being funny, I don't know how to answer.
That's just DeRon, y'all.
Like, I guess I'm just a goofy person, I was just happened to be cast in the show. Thank you very much, guys.
We do have a couple of questions from Twitter. The hashtag was Ask
Oh,
DMV.
Lord.
Yeah. This is for anybody on the cast to answer, and it's a good one. What was the most fun scene to film?
Defamation, 100%. I'm gonna step in. But both the actual, as a director, okay, shooting defamation was like the highlight of my career.
Did you guys see defamation when you're shooting it? So you didn't know, like, oh man.
Wait, just in defamation, us watching it, or you
Both.
shooting it?
Like, shooting the actual scene and then shooting y'all reacting to the like, literally, like, that's the most fun I've ever had. Because we all know what we're talking about. We've all been to that viewing party, do you know what I'm saying? And so, just to sort of get a chance to, like, put a part of Black culture that I haven't seen before, and do it honestly as we've all experienced it, I think was just like, it was a joygasm. It was like, we weren't trying to say anything. We weren't it was just like, let's portray this as it happens.
And what was the most challenging thing to overcome while you guys were shooting?
Oh, can I take that one, please?
Please, absolutely.
There's a wonderful episode, I can't talk about it, 6, where we all had to come together, and the level of love, and 5, sorry, the level of love and commitment to truth that everybody brought to that particular episode was monumental. It's life-changing. When you see it, I can't even talk about it, but it was that beautiful, and we just, like, I can't.
I would also like to add the Black Caucus scene was kind of a difficult scene to shoot, because that's when Justin, he's very specific, and that's why it's brilliant, but introducing very specifically all of the different groups on campus, and there's a ton of dialogue. So just as far as like being an actor and really making sure that Justin had to get it right, that was definitely a difficult but rewarding scene to shoot.
But I'll just really quick, I got to follow to Antoinette's comment too. I mean, yeah, chapter 5 is, it's a 10 episode first season, and we really did treat it like this big 5-hour thing that's just sort of sliced up. And that's the big sort of turning point of the series. And, Barry Jenkins directed it. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Academy Award winning Barry Jenkins.
You might have heard of him.
Envelope somewhere with his name.
Yeah. Shit. That was a night. It was a very, very emotional night for everybody. And we were kind of like flirting with the idea of being a family, but that's when we became a family. I think was that night because, like Antoinette said, we were trying to tell the truth, but that was a very difficult truth to tell. And I'm just so proud of y'all, the way you guys supported each other and supported me and supported Barry. I mean, it comes through. It comes through on the screen.
There's a certain obvious. I know you finished filming in November. Some things have changed since November. It's a very prescient show, you know what I mean? But at its heart, what I love about it is that it has that element, and then it also has love triangles and like backbiting and betrayals and loyalties and stuff like that. When you're making a show like this, and anybody can answer this, do you feel, how aware of it, of the outside world are you, and the influence it has on the story, like specifically like the story you're telling? Obviously we can take anything ripped from the headlines, but this is a fictional world that feels like it's very much a part of our world.
I mean, I'll just say that in the writer's room, Yvette and I, first of all, created a real team of rivals. Like, we wanted people in that room from every possible thought, background. It was important to have the female perspective. It was important to have, white people in the room. It was important to have black folks. It was just important to have, like, every angle on the thing. And we constantly brought stuff from the real world, into
We're telling
room.
our personal stories and the stories of the people that we know. So the stories were real from inception. And that's what helps to layer it with all that good, relatable stuff.
And also the scary thing about doing a satire is you try to tell the truth as honestly as you can, and then it often just becomes like a documentary.
The truth is funnier than fiction.
Yeah, I mean, we wrapped production on November 8th. On Election Day. And so you can imagine...
Shooting defamation.
Yeah.
Wait.
In the Oval Office.
So surreal.
Yeah, so we come into, that day like, oh my God, this is so exciting. It's our final day. We're going to have a female press. This is going to be amazing. And then as the day wears on, everyone's crestfallen. But once I got out of bed, like a couple days later, I was just so fucking proud. Excuse me, Mom, I'm sorry. I was so proud that we had a clap back at the ready. You know what I'm saying? And it was eerie because we'd be watching these episodes and be like, okay, that's too soon and that's too real. And did we know? Like, did we know? We comment on the world we were going to live in before we knew it was coming. I mean, it's weird.
But the conversation has always been necessary, which is why you came up with the idea over a decade ago, and you've been working on it and honing it, and now it's just going to live
It's still there.
forever.
I mean, it was an amazing
there. It
idea
became
when we
more
thought it was
relevant.
post-racial. It's an amazing idea in the great America that we live in now. It's like...
It's getting great. It's not there yet.
Yeah, not there yet. We'll make it there.
3 more years.
I wanted to just, I think we're pretty much wrapped up. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about? Like, was it with the show? I mean, it must be incredible to bring it here, to have an audience for it. I mean, this is one of the things that's so cool about South by Southwest is that you can see something like this that everybody will be enjoying and binging at home, but you get to see it with an audience. That must have been really fun. Is there anything about some of the laughs that you got or
I'm
didn't
going to
get?
say it was a pleasure to watch it with all of you.
Thank you so much.
Was there anything surprising about audience reaction, things that you thought were going to get a laugh, things that you were surprised got such a big laugh?
It's always different. I mean, with the film, you know, the more and more we screened it, audiences take it in completely different. And what's cool about it being Netflix is that, you know, you don't have to like go up to a ticket counter and say, yes, may I please see dear white people. It's like you can just watch it at home and like have your own viewing parties. I will say, listen, y'all, this is a little show, okay? If y'all enjoyed it, tell people. Tweet, Facebook, tell motherfuckers, because we gotta, you know.
Sorry, Anna.
I'm sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dr. Simien. We're trying to come through with other seasons, okay? So. We got more stories.
We got a lot more stories to tell. That's why I'm here.
Speaking of supporting the show, it's up for the Audience Award. It's eligible for the Audience Award, so please remember to cast your ballot on the way out. Those little white pieces of paper. You get 5.
Put a 5, please.
And if you, I think we could take. Do you guys want to take any questions, like from the audience? Anybody got any questions? Oh. Blue sweatshirt. I see you.
That's my cousin?
Yeah.
That's my cousin.
It is your cousin.
He has a lot of questions, I'm sure.
Lord Joshua.
Why was Marque so good?
That's a really important question.
It is. I don't know. He just is.
What's your question, man?
Did you used to have an afro?
That's the best question yet.
That's part of the job.
That's incredible. Did I used to have an afro? Actually, yes. To be honest, I did have an afro, which is funny that I am back with it again on this TV show. No, I was like, yes. To answer your question, I was like your age, I think, maybe 8 to 12, and my mama made me cut it off. She said it was too nappy.
That was an excellent question, though.
Yes, it was. Thank you, sir.
Anybody else have a cue? Jean Jacket.
I really appreciate in the second episode where it's kind of addressed like this intersectionality thing. Can you speak a little bit more about that and like the importance of putting that in media?
Yeah, I mean, intersectionality is just another way of saying human beings. You know what I mean? It's like you have black shows and like, oh, well, they're black. Okay, it's like, you know, there's a lot more to people than, you know, just their race. And it's sort of like it's a given when you see a movie with a predominantly white cast that, you know, you're seeing human beings. But unfortunately, when you see a show with people of color in it, that's not always a given. So for me, it was really important to say they're not just black kids. They are black and gay, or they're black and confused, or they're black and female, or they're black and Republican, or they're what else? You know, like I think one of the things that like is really important to me and other like storytellers in this era is like black, you know, people of color who are oftentimes the one person on that show that represents like a very shallow version of that experience. These are human beings. Like it's not, yes, it's the black experience, but if I do my job right, no matter what background you come from, you should be able to see yourselves in these characters. You know, I saw blue as a warmer's color. I'm not a white lesbian woman living in France, but I got my life from that movie because it tells the truth. You know, and to be able to tell the truth with black characters, that in and of itself is profound for me as an audience member. So as a storyteller, for me, it's of utmost importance. You know, we've got to get into the intersections. That's part of the human experience. And guess what? We are people as well.
We do have to wrap up. I want to, again, please vote Audience Award for Dear White People. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so